The Straw Hat Pirates manage to escape Land of the Dead and reunite for their next move. Unfortunately for them, the only escape route is through Building R. However, despite the odds that are stacked against them, Luffy and his companions pull together a dramatic counterattack.
On the next One Piece, get to Building R, the Pirate Alliance's great advance. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Luffy and friends desperately flee from the lethal Land of the Dead that leaked into the laboratory. At this rate, the only way to avoid suffering and instant death is to pass through the gate that looms up ahead. Meanwhile, the G5 demonstrates their Navy pride.
On the next One Piece, Tashigi's Tears, G5's desperate breakthrough plan. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Immediately after passing through the gate, the G5 soldiers are brutally attacked by the notorious Vergo, and the helpless Tashigi can only weep at the sight of her comrades being felled by her superior. Then, at just the right moment, a certain Straw Hat appears.
On the next One Piece, the treacherous Vice Admiral, Demon Bamboo Vergo. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
The fateful rematch against Caesar Clown is finally underway. Caesar previously used his gas power to defeat the Straw Hat crew, but the stalwart Luffy fights back with all his might, which causes this decisive battle to grow ever more intense.
On the next One Piece, a fierce battle gets heated. Luffy versus Caesar. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Trafalgar Law infiltrates the SAD production area and prepares to shake up the New World in a profound way. At the same time, the mysterious warlord who's been pulling the strings of Punk Hazard from the shadows finally breaks his silence and enters the fray.
On the next One Piece, a mastermind underground, Doflamingo makes his move. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
The bird-like woman Monet, who possesses the power of the Snow fruit, uses her ability to confine Luffy within multiple layers of snow and drain away his energy. Meanwhile, Law is trapped in a precarious situation of his own.
On the next One Piece, Luffy dies from exposure? The spine-chilling snow woman Monet! I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
While Smoker is filled with rage at the news of his subordinates, Vergo confronts him with powerful haki. With the Navy's pride and honor on the line, the two titans challenge one another in an epic fight.
On the next One Piece, fists collide, a battle of the two Vice Admirals. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Deep inside the basement of the inescapable Tower C, the hapless Luffy comes face to face with a small dragon. The beast claims to be a samurai who has overcome a most unusual fate. This auspicious encounter propels Luffy towards his next challenge.
On the next One Piece, a small dragon, Momonosuke appears. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Tashigi uses her haki to square with Monet, who wields the mighty power of the Snow fruit. However, when the vengeful bird woman retaliates with her sharp fangs, Tashigi's shoulder is almost crushed. Just then, Zoro's animal-like instincts kick in.
On the next One Piece, showing off his techniques, Zoro's formidable one-sword style. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Mocha takes off running as fast as she can, desperately clinging to the deadly candy with every step. But the rampaging children quickly surround her and attempt to take it for themselves. In a moment of panic, Mocha's next move causes Chopper to cry out with grief.
On the next One Piece, to save her friends, Mocha runs at the risk of her life. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
hopes of saving his men, Brownbeard attempts to reveal what a heartless villain Caesar Clown truly is. But Caesar prevents the truth from getting out by stopping the captain from speaking. Then, upon hearing the uproar of Caesar's victorious laughter, Luffy explodes with anger.
On the next One Piece, Brownbeard in grief, Luffy lands a furious blow. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Caesar's gas fruit may be potent, but its power is no match for the enraged Luffy and his flying fists. Elsewhere, Smoker faces an unavoidable defeat as he realizes how helpless he is to combat the devastating haki wielded by his opponent, Vergo.
On the next One Piece, a surprising outcome, White Hunter versus Vergo. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
After a single attack from Law instantly turns the tide of battle, the Straw Hat Pirates hasten to make their escape. Lashing out in a fit of rage, Caesar Clown unleashes a vicious sweeping assault on friend and foe alike, then decides to make Luffy his #1 target.
On the next One Piece, Caesar's defeat, the powerful Grizzly Magnum. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Luffy's victory against the evil Caesar Clown sends a shockwave throughout the New World. Shortly thereafter, an intimidating assassin sent by Doflamingo approaches the sky above Punk Hazard, signaling the beginning of a brand new storm of conflict.
On the next One Piece, Raid, an assassin from Dressrosa. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
As the countdown to Art Building's destruction dwindles ever closer to zero, Luffy continues to wait for all of his friends to gather. Meanwhile, outside, the powerful team of Baby 5 and Buffalo are challenged to an intense 2-on-1 battle by the tough-as-nails General Franky.
On the next One Piece, Running Wild, Invincible General Franky. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
After Monet sacrifices her life for Doflamingo's sake, Punk Hazard faces utter annihilation, and Luffy finds himself enveloped by a bright flash of light as the Straw Hats continue to race through the long tunnel. Little do they know that a shocking development awaits just ahead.
On the next One Piece, a critical situation. Punk Hazard explodes. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
As Doflamingo stealthily draws near, the battle over custody of the wanted Caesar Clown heats up. And when General Franky's armor is pierced by the fangs of Baby 5, the invincible Metal Warrior uses his ultimate secret weapon to launch a massive counterattack.
On the next One Piece, capture Caesar! General Cannon blasts! I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
After a fierce battle, the Straw Hats finally claim victory and capture the mad scientist Caesar. However, just as the survivors are licking their wounds and preparing to set sail far from Punk Hazard, something unexpected happens to Kinemon, a victim of the land of the dead.
On the next One Piece, a touching reunion, Momonosuke and Kinemon. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
At last, the time to depart has arrived. After farewells are exchanged with the rescued children and the G5 soldiers, Luffy lets out a triumphant shout to set sail. Meanwhile, Doflamingo draws nearer and nearer, his vile clutches threatening to ensnare our heroes.
On the next One Piece, it's time to say goodbye, leaving Punk Hazard. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
While sailing towards the next island of the New World, everyone is left in shock as Law reveals his plan to defeat the 4 emperors. Meanwhile, back on Punk Hazard, Doflamingo descends from the skies and proceeds to decimate Smoker and the G5 forces.
On the next One Piece, the G5 wiped out, Doflamingo's sudden attack. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Just when the end looks in sight for Smoker, Aokiji, aka Kuzan, intervenes and a new battle ensues between the former Navy powerhouse and the Warlord. As tensions threaten to reach a boiling point for the two mighty warriors, Aokiji causes a major stir with a single utterance.
On the next One Piece, intense! Aokiji versus Doflamingo! I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
The Straw Hats race towards the island of Dressrosa when suddenly a mysterious foe attacks. Luffy and Law swing into action, only to discover defeating their opponent is more difficult than they imagined. Little do they know, a surprising reunion soon awaits them.
On the next One Piece, Caesar goes missing. The Pirate Alliance makes a sortie. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
The sinister Breed uses the powers of his pet fruit to capture Luffy and Law. Although both try fighting back, they're unable to break free of the captain's clever trap and are forced to fight one another to the death. With seemingly no way out, that battle suddenly reaches an unexpected conclusion.
On the next One Piece, Luffy dies at sea, the Pirate Alliance comes apart. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
The odds for survival seem nil as Luffy and Law plunge into the ocean. Meanwhile, Chopper and Kung Fu Dugong launch an attack against Breed by themselves, only for it to fail. When all hope seems lost, an unimaginable miracle takes place.
On the next One Piece, a major turnaround. Luffy's angry Iron Fist strikes. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
News of Doflamingo's resignation from the warlords quickly spreads, taking the world by storm. Just when Law's plan seems to be progressing without a hitch, Doflamingo strikes once again, this time with a plot that threatens to light the world aflame with more than just headlines.
On the next One Piece, startling! The big news shakes up the new world. I'm gonna be king of the pirates! Subscribe, you guys! Join our crew on the One Piece YouTube channel!